you even leave your country to go to Russia or Ukraine to go negotiate any peace deal? Welcome to Sekou Style. This is your man Sekou Kesley. You already know, enlightening and empowering one video at a time. That's what we do. Today we're gonna be talking about African leader going to go talk peace negotiation in Russia and Ukraine. So hey, without further ado, let's get into it. Oh, no. Before we get into it, you already know what to do. Please subscribe. If you haven't already, like, comment, and share, man. That's what I'm begging you, please do that. All right, let's get down to the topic. Well, to the topic is, for me, a friend of mine was just like, yo, Sekou, what do you think? First, we were talking about what happened in Russia, and then all of a sudden, this whole topic came about. But what the African leaders, what's up for what happened? Why six African leaders left to go negotiate peace in Russia and Ukraine? What was all that about? I was like, frankly, buddy, if you want to get my reaction to this, is that our leaders, again, they are proving again to the world once again that they have nothing to do. They have nothing going for themselves. And why do I say this? No disrespect, but again, I will have to disrespect because you cannot say the truth where people will think it is disrespectful to the leaders. And if it is disrespectful to them and it is the truth, then by all means, let's go for it. Now, African leaders leaving all their job, their duty, their country, taking their taxpayer money to go to Russia and Ukraine to be humiliated in the process. Yet we didn't see any peace deal, nothing of sort. Why do you even leave your country to go to Russia or Ukraine to go negotiate any peace deal? Why? It makes no sense. We have a lot going on in Africa, I think, as a continent. We have pressing issues that needs to be addressed. Why are we going to Russia? Why are we going to Ukraine? People say, oh, Africa wants to play a bigger diplomatic role, they want us to do this, wants to do all that. You are entitled to an opinion. I'm entitled to my opinion. But to me, that's just nonsense. What African leaders should be doing right now is taking care of the African problems. The war in Ukraine, it's not African problem. I know it could be African problem, but what I'm saying is not African problem is that Africa needs to focus on feeding herself. Because I know beggars cannot be peacemakers. African leaders, we have reduced ourselves, the African continent, to what? Begging continent, always aid. We want foreign aid, we want foreign this, we want that. Respect the white men and their aid. The colonizers are always coming, dictating the terms and conditions as to how we govern, how we do things, because they are controlling our belly. African countries, many of them are suffering right now when it comes to wheat, when it comes to food production. They cannot get certain food because they have been relying on Ukraine or Russia for fertilizer, Ukraine for the wheat. They cannot get these things. People are dying of hunger because we are incapable of producing food, wheat, and incapable of producing fertilizer to use in our own continent. We have to buy it from Russia. If Russia decides not to sell it, what happens? So now these two countries are in war. African leaders are leaving all what they're doing, taking their taxpayer money, taking a delegation. Now, if you are sensible, you will tell yourself, since when can someone who is relying on other people go negotiate for those people to come together? It's that the truth hurts. But the truth here is African leaders, we need to stop this. I would say the African leadership need to stop this. You have to first get the power, the respect. Right now, African leaders they don't command such power because we are not doing the bare minimum for the people in your countries. Look at South Africa, all the potential that South Africa has. Instead of making progress, you're going backward. You're now having electric problems, you're having this problem, having that problem. You're not making the necessary progress that needs to be made. Senegal right now, the protests all over the place for democracy and freedom of speech and all that other stuff. Yeah, you want to go talk peace in other countries. You don't even want to leave. You want to have a dictatorial tendency to stay. You don't want to leave the power. You want to go negotiate in someone else's countries for them to stop war. I mean, we could go on and on. Zambia, you are indebted to China, almost defaulting on your debt, praying on your knees for the Western country and Chinese to forgive your debts, and yet you want to go talk peace? Kenya, you're struggling to put your act together. The president of Kenya, Ruto, very eloquent man, knows how to talk, but talking cannot solve African problems. If we know anything about African problems, and if we learn our history, all the brilliant leaders, the talkatives, they all die early. Why? Because the West didn't like what they were saying. And the West had more interest in their country, so they end up killing them, either through coup d'etat or assassination. You could name Patrice Lumumba, you could name Sankara, you could name too many of them. But yet, the Kenyan president now have the stage just talking. You're not saying anything new. People already know all these things. The question is, what is your solution? What needs to be done? Is the solution to leave your country to go talk peace that has nothing to do with you? Or the only thing that has to do with you is that, again, you guys, because you haven't done your job properly, which is to make sure that your people are fed. Instead of relying on Ukraine to bring the wheat and everything, why not rely on the Kenyans themselves and give them the necessary tools that are needed so that they could grow their own food? I know it's easy said than done, but what are the processes that you're putting in place to make that happen? Right? So I could go ahead and name all these countries that went on this so-called peace agreement, and we saw what happened. Before you guys even left, the war in Ukraine and Russia intensified. Russia almost had a coup d'etat. So this whole peace talk was just like beggars trying to go talk to people, begging again for peace, and you guys were humiliated. South African crew was complaining that the Polish government couldn't allow them to pass through because for whatever reason there was a security protocol and all that stuff. You see, they don't do that to Western countries. They will do that to African countries because they don't believe in your leadership. They don't believe in us because we have given them every reason not to believe in all that time. But we need to stand up for ourselves. If we are not mingling other people's affairs, we won't get such an humiliation in the first place. If you stay in South Africa, make sure that you guys have electricity, make sure that the unemployment rate is going down, make sure that corruption and all these things are stopped, make sure that you have good governance. You think the Polish government would be fool to humiliate the South African delegation? You think they could do that to the United States or French or any other delegation coming to Ukraine, passing through their stuff, making their delegation stay and only the president and few people leave and go to the destination? They would never do that to the West or Western countries or countries that they perceive as powerful. But because, again, we haven't really put ourselves there, we want to go talk peace. These people will treat us however they want to. So for me, I was telling my friend, long story short, African leaders wanted to go once again humiliate themselves. But the solution here is, at least my perceived solution, I could be right, wrong, totally, but this is what I'm thinking. What African leaders need to do is focus on the institutions that are already in place. And I think Professor Lumumba always said this: we have to utilize the African Union, not just putting few countries together. The entire African Union have to come together and speak as one, united African front. The The African Union have to meet, convey a General Assembly in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and be able to say, okay, this is our stand on the war in between Ukraine and Russia. We think this is what needs to be done, clear, cut. Not just some people representing, when you go to the UN General Assembly, some people are voting this way, some people are voting that way. It showed this unity. And when you go do any peace talk or any negotiation, it's that this unity is still going to show. But if we come internally, everybody submit themselves to Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, go there. At least that will bring some good economy to the Ethiopian people by delegation who's going to be traveling there. Talk these things through among yourself first and have a clear position. Present that position to the whole wide world. Take it to the United Nations. Convey and bring other nations who may not be in agreement with your position or who are in agreement with your position. Call for more people to support that position and push that as the African stand. So we are speaking as one. But you're not doing that. You're taking 6 leaders to go represent the African continent here and there, and these guys are getting humiliated. And nothing was pretty much solved. It was just like a jolly ride, which cannot continue and shouldn't continue, because Africans deserve respect. African leaders have to give that respect to themselves. If you don't respect yourself, you're going to be disrespected. And to be quite frank, the issue in Europe right now, especially between Russia and Ukraine, is not an African problem. It shouldn't be an African problem. The only reason that it's becoming an African problem is because African leaders are failing